Welcome to a special episode of Tudoriferous. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Lucy. And we are celebrating our 3rd anniversary, which seems absolutely impossible.
It really does. It really does seem impossible.
In some ways, I feel I've been doing this forever.
Yeah.
But in other ways, I feel we've only just got started.
Yeah.
Maybe because we're still on Henry the 7th.
That we're looking at all the people that are still to come.
Yes. Oh, God. Yep, we've been sent lots of questions.
Nice.
In this box.
Nice.
In the time age, not time age, what do you say? Age-old Tudoriferous style. We'll take the questions at random out of the box.
And try to answer
them. So.
Yeah, the key word in there is try.
Yes. Okay, opening the box. Ooh,
Dun, dun,
there we go. Right, delving in. Right, the first question is from Amanda Hayes. Which historical figure that you have researched has surprised you the most? All of them, I think.
Yeah, we have not really... Well, I haven't pulled anybody that I didn't have some sort of strange preconceived notion. Even the ones we didn't know anything about, we had done something about somebody else relating to them. They gave us a picture in my mind. And then I started researching them and was very surprised.
I'd have thought you would say Ferdinand of Aragon.
I didn't research him, though.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I thought it meant you in the plural.
Okay.
But,
all of them have been surprising. Ferdinand was surprising for me because I got the impression that he was useless, and then you come around.
Everyone thinks he was amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, not nice.
No.
But then, yeah, you can't have everything, can you?
No, the only two that I was not expecting to be good people, but I was still surprised at just how bad they were Empson and Dudley. They were awful.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm still haunted by them.
There is one, I don't know if it's necessarily a surprise, but I think that we portray him in a way that is way off from what he's actually like.
Oh.
And that is Maximilian. I don't think anybody was saying Maximilian, bless him, at the time.
Very true.
He was he spent all his time in battle.
Yes.
He must have been a terrible man.
But he was kind of delusional where it came from money.
Yes, bless him. Historical figure that surprised me most. Well,
Margaret of Burgundy.
yeah, I thought that'd be for you. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, certainly I wasn't expecting. I mean, she's diabolical. That's the only thing
Yeah.
that you know for certain. It's all opposites, isn't it? She's diabolical and she isn't. Mm-hmm. And Philip the Fair, I didn't think he was particularly. He looks a bit hangdog.
Yeah.
Ferdinand of Aragon does come from Aragon, so we can give him that. Yeah, and Maximilian, really.
Yeah. And Poynings. I expected Poynings to be this monster. But
I remember you hadn't heard of him when we took him out.
No, but the very first thing that I researched was the Poynings law, and I was like, oh no, I've got another Empson and Dudley. Only to discover that it wasn't like that at all. Yeah. Good question.
And Morton's Fork. Was it Morton's Fork?
Yes. Well, we don't know. One person definitively says it's Fox's Fork. Yeah, all of them.
Somebody else said there was no fork.
Yeah. I guess one surprise.
I think pretty much all of them.
Yeah, one definitive surprise is that we don't find very many people that are nice. Not very many redeeming qualities.
No. So far, it's been on the Patreon. The only two I can think of is Leonardo and Copernicus. Yeah. Well, sorry about that. Mm-hmm. We're sorry to have started a podcast where everyone's horrible. Okay, question number 2. From David Whitley. Who would you most like to look at who falls just too far outside your chosen timeline, even for Patreon? We started off being very stuck in our rules, didn't
Yes,
we?
we
But it's
did.
sort of got a bit more
We're still
porous since
staying
then.
fairly close to our timeline, though. We may be including
Yeah.
the world, but we are staying close to our timeline.
Although somebody did suggest we did Christine de Pizan for Patreon, and I said, oh, yes, that does sound good, but I think she is 14th century. But
Might still be
Tudor
good.
ladies loved her.
Yeah.
So thought it'd be interesting to do from that aspect. So that's slightly cheating,
Yes.
but we made the rules.
We can break the rules.
We can, yes.
I
We did Tip Toft. He wasn't actually. He died 75, I think.
Yeah, but he still
he was
sort
a
of
bit
overlapped a tiny bit with some of the people when they were younger before 1485.
Yeah.
Who would I?
And we have thought about doing Wycliffe.
Yes, I still want
He's
to do
also out of our line. Yeah.
because he's important. He's one of the reasons why Protestantism was already primed to start in England. He sort of led the way. I don't know. There's so many interesting people.
Well, as part of the Cecily of York episode, or cameo offshoot of that, I thought we might do Cecily of York.
Oh, her mother.
Cecily Neville.
Yes.
No, her grandmother, isn't it?
Yeah. Cecily Neville would be very interesting.
Yes, and I thought, oh, should we do it? Because she can't have reached our line, but she did because she lived to be 80 years old. So she just nips in there, I think.
Oh, we should do her.
Yeah, well, I've got a cameo lined up for after Cecily of York. We'll have the other York daughters and then Cecily Neville of York.
I think you're going to end up with more information than just a cameo episode for her because she did rule in her husband's stead, and there should be legal documents for her if she's on the calendar of state
There are
papers.
several books on her as well, which is more than can be said for the other Cecily of York.
Yeah. Yeah, let's make her a full episode on Patreon. Up to you. Up to you.
I'll see how it goes.
Okay.
Okay, another question. There's quite a lot of them here. I was a bit worried to start with. We'd have one and we'd have to keep taking it out and reading it again. Twilla Calvert, oh, she sent quite a lot. If you were to start another podcast, what would you choose to focus on? Would it be another time in history or a different topic entirely?
You go ahead first.
I would probably stick to the same type of thing, the same format. I think I'd keep it all the same, but maybe do either the English Civil War or Victorians, because I mean there's so many people. We've got Dickens and Joan came to Rome, and I mean it's quite tempting, but we've got plenty to do, plenty to be getting on with.
We really do. I'd be tempted to do something completely different. Like one of my many, many, many hobbies is working with fiber, wool, silk, cotton, you name it. And the history of that and the development of the breeds. We did talk a little bit in Isabella's episode about the merino sheep and how they were actually used in political times. So when they were making treaties, sometimes the treaty or the gift would be just enough merino sheep for you to get fleece from them, but not to keep breeding them.
Not to start a whole industry.
Yeah, exactly. So that the merino sheep stayed with Spain.
Yeah, that'd be fascinating because there's bound to be loads of political stuff behind cloth.
All over the place, especially silk, the Silk Road.
Oh, yeah.
And you see silk in our time period. And again,
I do.
it becomes this huge thing of damasks being made and being sold for fortunes. All you have to do is look at Louis XIV and how many of the nobles went bankrupt just on clothing alone. And that fiber had to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. And who in their right mind discovered that you could basically milk a silkworm?
I know. It's one of these things you think, where do you start?
Yeah. A lotus silk is the same. If you ever get a chance, go on YouTube. They've got this whole thing about how to make lotus silk. It's still being done by hand because there is no possible way for a machine to do it. And it's amazing how they do it. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous to touch.
Well, that does sound interesting. So, yeah, you could do that as a sideline, can't
Well,
you?
I haven't
That
found
podcast.
a single podcast that's doing it. I've been looking because I thought I don't have the time, but I'd really like to know more. And there isn't. There's plenty of books and journal articles on it. And it's easier to find information on them because they're economic transactions. We still have transactions for those in clay. You've got it in cuneiform. Clay.
Wow.
So you've got information going way back, and nobody's doing a podcast. Hurry up.
Go on, get on with it, you lot.
Yeah.
Lovely. Right, next one. Oh, another one from Twilla Calvert. Have you come to regret any of your Tudorlicious choices, or wish you'd given it to someone else?
Ooh.
There is, actually, and I've been wondering whether to admit this.
Ooh, go ahead.
But there's 2,000 miles between us, so you can't hit me.
Are you going to say Margaret Beaufort?
No. I was thinking, I mean, as far as having an effect on the rain is concerned, Empson and Dudley.
I didn't want to give them Tudorlicious because I hated them.
Yeah, I think that's what we came up with in the end. But and Perkin, I mean,
Yeah.
he's everywhere in the thing. But yeah, I know why we didn't give it to any of those three.
Yes.
But yeah, as far as making such a difference to Henry's reign, should we have done the fact that
No.
you thought one was completely useless and the other two were horrible?
Although we have given it to horrible people before. But honestly, I would equate it almost to giving Tudorlicious to Hitler for how brutal those two were. And I mean, there's one thing to be going after adults who have some form of defense, but to go after children, no. I don't regret that.
Yeah.
They do not.
No.
But Perkin, although he sort of waffled in the wind, you're right, he did have a massive impact.
Yeah, he was more of a catalyst than
Yeah.
a doer.
And he
really,
was in
wasn't he?
every treaty that Henry tried to get him back. He spent fortunes trying to get that man back into his kingdom. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't regret any of it.
No.
As such, but if we were to look at it from a different angle, yeah, Perkin.
But not the other two.
But yeah, I don't want the other
No.
two to have it.
No.
I mean, that's the word licious in it, and it just
No. Unless you're looking at malicious.
Yes, that's good.
Good questions. I was worried we might get a question like, what's your favorite color? 2-second answer. Yeah.
Blue.
I don't have a favorite. Or I should say my favorite just changes with the season. Quite literally.
But we got a blue house and a blue shed.
But your walls are bright red with blue flowers.
Anyone you would have or wish you hadn't?
No, I'm actually quite happy with ours. We thought pretty hard before we said yes or no. So I'm quite content with what we've done. Except you're right with Perkin, but I don't regret it. It's just an enigma of which way it would have gone. Yeah.
If it had been more him,
Yes.
then I think we'd have given it to him anyway. But it's sort of everybody else around him pulling the strings.
Yeah. And using him, really.
Yeah, good question. Oh, this is a big book of paper. Right, okay. Barbara Bath asks, which person who got a cameo episode do you regret not being able to cover in a full episode due to not enough information?
Ooh. Hold on. Let me pull up all of our cameo episodes, and I'm thinking of ranking them in order.
All of them.
There are so many that I would have liked more, I think. Martin Schwartz would have been amazing.
Yeah.
Lady Catherine Gordon has to be my biggest.
Lady Catherine Gordon, yeah.
And Margaret Kebbel.
Yeah?
It's like we've got... We've got plenty of information on men, but the women who would normally tie in, we're 50% of the population. Well, we might not be, but we're still
Ish.
a big chunk, and yet we don't have information. But Lady Catherine Gordon, that would have been an absolutely fascinating life. What?
It would have answered so many questions.
So many questions. So many questions.
Yeah, she's the one I immediately thought of because, yeah, the women tend to be... Okay, there's a little snapshot. This is the moment where Margaret Cabell was abducted.
Yeah.
These are Catherine's husbands.
Yep. Nan Fan, just because of his name. Sorry.
Nam Fan. Nam Fan.
Nan Fan. Ooh, Sir Ralph Ullingham.
Yeah. Yeah. There's just so many mysteries to that man.
But yes, Lady Catherine Gordon is my 100%.
Lady
I
Catherine,
wish we
yeah.
had more.
Next question. Another one from Twiller. What is your favourite source material to date?
Favorite? That's going to be a difficult one because I tend to really dive into research papers and primary documents. My favorite would be more of the court rolls, both
That's what I was thinking.
court rolls and trial court rolls. I wish more of them were online. Like, we were so lucky in this one odd way that COVID happened. So many things started becoming online and available to me in Canada that they wouldn't have. And I wish we had more of those. But at the same time, you don't get the same kind of emotional information from them as you do from the past and letters. Have you ever read them yet?
I've read bits of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like just the personal stuff. Like, I need a new girdle for my dress because I'm pregnant and the old one doesn't fit anymore. That kind of thing. Those are my favorites.
Yeah, I was thinking the Spanish court rolls because when I was doing Ferdinand, I was thinking, oh, no, she's right. There's absolutely nothing on the man. All the books I got information from were about Isabella or Juana or Catherine of Aragon. There's nothing about him. And then, just as I was beginning to despair, I thought, right, okay, well, let's go on to the Spanish court rolls. And that was it. Floodgates opened.
Nice. Yeah.
So, yeah, I would go for the court rolls.
Yeah, we need
They
more
sort
of those. Primary sources are so critical. When you're trying to make an idea of what the world was like and having to link everything, that's been part of the fun. And it's a lot easier to link things when there are treaties being discussed because those court rolls had that information. The only downside is I don't speak many of the languages that they're in. I can get by with Spanish, French, and now Latin because I've been studying it. But when it gets into like Danish, when I was trying to find anything on the King of Denmark, I got nowhere.
No.
And Google Translate really gives you some interesting ideas.
Yeah, oh yes, especially from early documents. Yes.
Words have very much changed
No, that's
meanings.
not what he said.
Yeah.
Yeah, court rolls, definitely. They're a godsend.
Yeah.
All right. So I've got quite a lot of questions here. Right, 3 people said sort of the same question.
Okay.
Jill Almond, who is your favourite person mentioned in the podcast and why? Barbara Bath, from the regular podcast feed, who is your favourite person you've covered? Full episode or cameo? And Twilla Culvert said, do you have a favourite episode or subject that you've covered?
It's not one of my episodes.
Oh.
I loved Catherine Sforza. Katarina Sforza.
Yes. Oh, she was great, she was.
How strong she was and what she managed to achieve at a time where women weren't supposed to be that strong is just absolutely empowering.
And she seemed to have quite a sense of humour in a way. The way she battled against people, she didn't just do it in a normal way. She did it
And we
in some
found out what the
bizarre
fig
way.
was. And I've used it. They have no idea what I'm doing. I
Anyway,
know.
people who aren't on Patreon will have no idea what we're talking about. So
Join
what about on the
Patreon
regular
even for
feed?
1 month so you get to listen to Katharina Sforza. I loved her, and she was not somebody I got to research, which was a little disappointing after hearing about her, but wow, it was so good. So good. How about you?
On the regular feed? What do you think?
Margaret Beaufort. I really wish I could have gone back to the beginning and found more information. Now that I know where to get those sources, there's a lot more about her.
Yeah.
But she was the very first one I did, and I feel like I did her a disservice.
I've enjoyed doing the cameo ones because they're generally somebody that just becomes a name.
Yeah.
The name sort of whizzes through and you think, oh, well, I wonder who he is. And you look it up and you think, wow.
Yeah. Why is he only a name?
Yeah. Martin Schwartz I enjoyed doing. Finding out about Katerina of Motril, whether she was a slave or not when she got to this country. Yeah, I enjoyed all of those. And then finding the, I have to thank, I've forgotten her name, the first name now, Wendy Moorhen. It sounds like a character from a children's book, but she's a historian that wrote 3 papers on Catherine Gordon. So that was, thank you very much, Ms. Moorhen. That was quite a relief. But my favourite, I think, is Maximilian.
Really?
I love Maximilian.
Okay.
I just thought, I was researching him. I was thinking, don't do that. Oh my God, you've done it.
It's like watching a child start climbing a tree. No,
Yes.
no, this is going to hurt.
Oh, he's fallen.
Anything broken? Surprisingly, no. Oh, he's doing it again. Different tree this time. You know that willows lose their branches really easily. You might want to choose a different tree.
Yes, for willows, read Fennis, I think. Yeah, no, I liked him.
Nice.
Again, I think my vision of him is completely different to how he was, but never mind. Okay. Janet Davis, do you have a local legend, fun fact, or cool history story about where you live?
It's not a local legend, and it's not a fun fact, but it's something I've been recently researching. I live in Mission, BC. Probably shouldn't say that, but I live in Mission, BC. And
Well, I think it'd be hard to track you down, wouldn't it?
oh yeah, probably. And we have a rather dire history during World War II in regards to the Japanese that lived in Mission, and they owned a lot of property. I am in the process of working out which properties were theirs. And I would love to one day do a podcast just on what we did, just so the world knows, because everybody seems to think that Canada was blameless. And while we didn't do mass genocide, we did do some things that were horrific that we just,
Ruined lives.
yeah, we turned a blind eye to it. We didn't actively, like the general population didn't actively hate or fear, but we allowed other people to make those decisions and to do some pretty horrific stuff because we just didn't want to see it. And I don't think that's right. So that's what I've been mired in, which isn't the most uplifting, but I felt it was
I was
important.
going to say, it's not quite a fun fact,
No.
but yes, it sounds interesting.
It is interesting and important, especially when you look at one particular property in Mission that I might get myself in trouble, is an abbey now that was not at the time. They took it from a Japanese family. And it's not as simple as saying, in England, if somebody was to take something from somebody in World War II, it would have been already cultivated or something. No, these families came in and had to clear out trees, roots, you name it, over years by hand with themselves and horses. And they did all that work only to have it taken from them. And it's still so recent that we still have survivors alive. And that's what's heartbreaking.
Any compensation?
Not that I'm aware of yet. I just started delving into this through a coworker who had a book that a Japanese man wrote. I'm trying to locate him because the book's no longer unpublished, and I'd like to own a copy to make sure a copy exists. The only other copy that I know of is with Simon Fraser University, and he personally published it because, of course, no publisher would touch it, which I also think is a crime. So yeah, it may be horrible, but at the same time, if we don't learn from history, we just keep doing it over and over and over again because we don't recognize it. So I think it's important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, that was a downer.
Well, my local thing, I think I've told most of the local stories. I mean, there's Allah Church and King Alfred. King Alfred burning the cakes. The pub used to have the table he burnt the cakes on, which is very nice.
What happened to the table?
I don't know. It's not there anymore. I don't know. Formica's gone out of fashion a bit, hasn't it?
Oh, man. Yeah, he definitely burnt the cakes on Formica, sure.
I think what amazed me is how often we mention Taunton. This is ridiculous. I had no idea that Taunton had all this history. And there is a history trail in Taunton, which I keep thinking I ought to
You
go
really
on.
should.
If only to keep saying, no, I don't think so. No, I think you'll find Reginald Bray.
Take a personal
did that.
recorder with you. So then we could turn it into an episode. That would be cool.
Okay, I will do that.
Because I used to really enjoy the Rex Factor when they took a recorder with them after they had gone to see something or after they had done a pub quiz. That was cool. Yeah, definitely do that.
Okay, will do. Right, next question from Janet Davis. Do you ever think you will get to the point where you don't think you when a 12-year-old girl gets married?
No.
Brackets, I love the fact you don't hold back about what you're thinking, and I definitely feel along with Michelle.
Thank you. No, I'll never get there. I'll never get there. Especially once my nieces got to that age.
Yeah, as soon as it's mentioned, I can see a 12-year-old girl. I know what 12-year-old girls look like.
And how underdeveloped they are, both mentally, emotionally, and physically. Like, it's just, no, I won't. And sorry, I can't hold back. I'm not very good at that. I am definitely not a poker player.
No. Okay, two people say similar questions. Jill Osmond, which people whom you have mentioned in the podcast would you want to be if you had to live the life of someone else?
Ooh.
And Carly Felt said, if you could quantum leap, in inverted commas, referring to the programme for the 70s, into any of the people you have covered, who would it be?
70s and 80s for Quantum Leap. Jakob Fugger. He had money, and I don't think he ever ended up in prison or anything.
No, he seemed to do all right.
There's the safest, least traumatic life that I'm aware of.
Yeah, until he sort of fell foul of Luther.
Yeah, still, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah. No, it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
Every other life is very traumatic at some point. So his seemed fairly calm and stable.
Yeah, that's a good point, Fugger. I hadn't thought of him.
None of the women.
No.
Mm-mm.
I think Leonardo had a nice life, but he's not on the main feed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine wanting to be any of them.
No, they all have something go wrong for them. Like, horribly wrong.
Yeah, no, I can't think of anybody. Yeah, you're right, Fugger's probably the best bet.
Oh, man.
I'm not even after the money. I just think, he was about the least horrible life.
Yeah.
Right, next one.
Yeah.
Another from Janet Davis. Why do you think Margaret Beaufort is so vilified by history? Is she vilified? I feel she's had she's been brought back.
Recently, it's been brought back. But in the past, I don't know how to say this without sounding ridiculously feministic, but in the past, most historians were men. She was a strong woman, and all through history, you'll find a lot of the strong women were immediately determined to be loose women, or evil women, or witches. If you had any power, that was the, what is it, the trope?
Or over-forceful. I mean, she is meant to be the mother-in-law from hell.
Yes. The
doesn't
ultimate
seem like
mother-in-law
it, does
from
it?
hell. Not at all. Not for how much Elizabeth wanted her around. And Cecily of York wanted her around.
Yeah.
If you don't want your mother-in-law around, you didn't have to have her there. That's the way it was at the time. Like, just live in a different house.
But the question is, the main question, though, is did she kill the princess in the tower?
I could never see her harming a child. After all of the care and attention she put on, this is something I didn't get to mention in the podcast because I didn't have the information at the time. Any child that was put in her care as a servant or were children of her servants, she made sure they were well educated, well clothed, well fed, and had a good position at the end. And she was determined to do that for every single one. So I really can't see her kill off children. Not if she's taking on children that have nothing to do with her whatsoever. Like altar boys who were orphans. They were hers. She made sure they were taken care of all the way up until they were in a situation where they could be independent. And even then, she'd step in to try to get them something better later on if something came up that she thought they were suited for. Yeah, I can't see her do it.
No, I can't see the logic behind it anyway. I think it's just grasping at straws, thinking it's not Richard, so it's got to be somebody.
Yeah.
Well, she'll do.
Yes.
Okay, next one. Okay, another one from Twiller. What, if any, are your favourite Tudor books, shows or podcasts? Are there any that don't really pique your interest? And she also asks, is it difficult to watch or read historical fiction, knowing as much as you do about the Tudor era, or is it pretty easy to suspend your disbelief enough to enjoy it? No, I can't suspend my disbelief and enjoy it.
Neither can I.
I can't. If I think,
oh
that
my
didn't
gosh,
happen, then instantly I'm out.
I thought that I was going to be unique in that, but History Hit actually has episodes where they've got like Nicola Talla watching Tudor movies and going, that never happened. Can we shut this off?
Yes.
And I'm like, thank you.
Don't mess with the story.
I don't like any of them. I used to, once I first started watching, found out that The Shadow of the Tower, it's a 1970s thing for Henry VII. And from what I understand, they did attempt to follow what actually happened. They did make an attempt at it. But even then, I'm like, I don't think so.
More so now, I should think.
Yes. Yeah, now that we've got the info. I prefer to read historical fiction for any other period that I don't know anything about.
The only historical fiction I've read, it's not the genre that I like, but I do like all four, those three. I think they're absolutely amazing. The Hilary Mantel ones.
Oh, I haven't read them.
They are brilliant.
I know I don't like Philippa Gregory's books.
I haven't tried
only because
reading.
it's a little too far out there. I got to the fact where they were like, yes, Jacquetta and Elizabeth Woodville were actual witches. No. And I was like, nah, I'm out.
I've been listening to the Matthew Shardlake books. Okay. C.J. Sanson. He is a lawyer in the time of Henry VIII. I do find it quite annoyingly written. He seems to get onto little turns of phrase. For the first part of this book, I'm on book 3. He was every time someone smiled, they showed white teeth. I think, well, most people do show their teeth when they smile. Sometimes they show small white teeth, or they show long yellow teeth, and then you know that he's a baddie. He hasn't got very good teeth.
Oh, really?
That went on for a while, and then it suddenly stopped. He got lost interest in white teeth, and now I notice everybody's eyes, if someone's even remotely surprised, their eyes widen, and if they're thinking or they're suspicious, their eyes narrow. So their eyes are sort of popping about all over the place. And just think once or twice in a book, not that often. And I found I have completely...
But for speech patterns, that's common.
Yeah, but not in a book. I found
Yeah.
I completely home into them now. I can't. I think, oh, not another one.
Oh,
And
no.
then, so she smiled. You think, no, don't say it. Don't say
Yeah.
it. Showing small white. Oh, he said it. But they are interesting on the effects of the Reformation. What the effects have been on people who lived in convents and monasteries, and what happened to them, just being turfed out.
And the homeless and the ill.
Yeah. So it's very interesting for that, if you can get past the small white teeth and the eyes narrowing. And he's very nice, Matthew Shardlake. There's nothing wrong with him. He's so nice. And you think, nice is boring.
So far, not realistic from anybody we've covered.
Yes, he's nice in a very 21st century way. Thoughtful and considerate for other people's feelings and things. I think that's not what we've come across. So, so one thing I like.
I should clarify that I'm not a big historical fiction person, except for a few books, like the Jack White books for his Roman series and the Templars. That one's good. But I like cozy mysteries, and I like those in historical. So Brother Cadfael is really good. That's during the time where Stephen and Matilda were fighting.
Yeah.
And then the Daisy Dalrymple books by Carola Dunn. Those are in the 1920s. Really enjoy them. But I have absolutely no idea if they're accurate or not, which is nice.
Yes, that does help. Yeah. So what about podcasts? What's your favourite Tudor podcasts? There are quite a lot about.
I don't know if I have a favorite. I do enjoy... Again, I'm not being an advertisement for History Hit, but I am quite enjoying it.
Yeah, I listen to the History Hit ones. I listen to Gone Medieval, Not Just the Tudors, and the Ancients.
Yeah, the Not Just the Tudors is the one that I quite like. I just find that their stuff is well researched. Of course, they're all historians.
Yeah.
So you're not getting random information, but they still manage to keep it very interesting. So that one's good.
Talking Tudors is a good one. Natalie Grueninger.
I don't think I've ever listened to it.
Oh, well, you've got loads to catch up on there. She's done lots. The Rest is History. Sometimes do the Tudors. They're good on all parts of history.
I would love Totalis Rankium to tackle the Tudors just to see what kind of things Jamie comes up with when he's listening to what they do.
I don't know, are the Tudors worse than the Romans?
I don't know. I just keep thinking of, I think it was, what was his name? The shortest president. Longest
speech, yes.
Shortest presidency, and Jamie throwing his glasses away saying he could do nothing. I love that reaction from him. I'd love to see him with Maximilian.
Well, they'll be doing Maximilian, won't they? If they do the Holy Roman Emperors.
If they go into the Holy Roman Emperors.
Yes, I'm very intrigued to see what they get to do with Maximilian.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet they don't say bless him.
Yeah, they definitely aren't a Tudor podcast, but they're one of my favorites. Yeah. They're definitely one of my favorites.
Yes. The Tudor chest is often quite interesting.
Haven't heard of that one either.
They're all quite similar because it's all people interviewing historians. So it's all interesting.
Yeah, rather than just a single person talking.
Yeah.
I should say that my life has been a little more than chaotic in the last 3 years. I have no idea what happened. I try to live by my 3 C's, which is cozy, calm, comfortable, contentment, and it's just not happening. So I haven't had time to do a lot of stuff that I really, really, really enjoy or would like to have time to do. Hopefully this is going to change, like tomorrow. Tomorrow would be nice. But yeah, that's why I don't have a lot of podcasts on my feed. I used to listen to a lot of them, but I haven't. There just hasn't been an opportunity.
Well, I work as a gardener, so I've got my earpiece in most of the time when I'm gardening.
Nice.
And
Beautiful.
Listening to that. Right, okay, next one. How long have we got? Right, Dan Ayer says, why, in your opinion, are Tudors so popular among non-historians and in pop culture?
That was when we finally have a time where things were being recorded in more detail than just the state papers, because people were writing books, memoirs,
Letters.
we had Polydor Virgil, Comines, and it was a time of massive change. We went from the entire world being Catholic to Protestantism coming in, the Gutenberg Press coming in. It's a time of massive change. And then you've got the Henry VIII scandal. So when you're talking about the Tudors, really everybody's famous because of Henry VIII.
Yes. Henry VIII
was
and Elizabeth,
such-
you've got two really big hitters there.
Yeah.
And the clothes, people like the clothes. They're quite
Yeah. Weird.
weird, yes. The ruffs, I would hate to wear a ruff.
Yeah. Well, the farthingale. That stupid pinwheel thing, so you can't even put your arms to your side. No, I don't want to wear that.
Yeah, I think it's the characters. Yeah, and you get more information of what people are thinking and what people are saying to each other,
Yeah.
which is more interesting than just saying, he did this, he did that, then he did this. You can
Yeah.
say, he did this because she said that, and they said this. Okay. How many names, this is Twiller Calvert again, how many names are there left in Henry VII's season? I counted them because I've just turfed them out of my box to put these in, and there were 12, which is more than I thought, actually. We said we'd be finished by the end of this year.
Yeah, we're not.
No. By the end of this year,
7.
we will have done 2 more.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not going to be finished by the end of this year.
No.
We've got a big
No.
chunk of 1492 to come, which will be about 2 months of sheer misery, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
But we can't have a season that has 1492 in it and ignore it.
And not cover
Yeah.
it.
And it's very
Especially since
interesting.
it has such an impact on all of Europe, not just Spain and not just the New World.
Yeah. And she goes on, are there any upcoming names that you're especially excited about to start researching?
Well, I've got Juana that I still have to start. I haven't had an opportunity to, and I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I am too. She's going to be a good one. I'm thinking Pope Julius.
Ooh.
Because we finally get to hear about the alum trade, which we've been plugging for 3 years now. He is an extraordinary character, and we might be able to find out more about how bad the Borgias were and how much of it came from him. So I'm quite intrigued about him. Who else have we got? We've got Fitzgerald, so that would take us over to Ireland, which we haven't really covered much.
Ooh, yes. I think that's it.
We shouldn't say that's it, because it makes it sound the rest are really boring. They're all going to be wonderful.
I want to go over Juana because there are 2 drastically different opinions about her.
Yeah.
One is she was completely off her rocker, and the other was the men just wanted her out of the way.
Yeah. I think we're going to find the same with Cromwell as well. I was thinking, and Thomas More, I was thinking you might have to do 2 separate episodes or 2 separate chunks of it to say, right, this, I'm going to tell you the story in one way, and now I'm going to tell you the story in another way. Because Thomas More was a saint all that time, and then suddenly you think, no, he was a horrible man.
One thing that I did have a problem with was I did watch The Tudors, and Jeremy Northam plays him. And he plays him as a very kindly person.
Yeah.
And while, yes, he educated his daughters, he also was very adamant to burn the Protestants.
Yes. Yeah.
So, yeah, he's going to be one of those. He's either a saint or he's evil, depending on who you look at. Those are the ones I get excited about learning.
Yeah. Okay, this is a good question from David Whitley. How do you decide that you finished researching on one of your subjects? For some, I'm sure it's when you run out of material, but for others, you must have to make a decision that enough is enough or you'd never stop.
Yes.
Well, I think he's answered his own question there. Yes, for some, there's just not the stuff there to. I mean, you think, oh, like Francis Lovell. I mean, when I'd finished, I'd written it all. I'd written everything. Everything we knew about him. It was in the podcast.
Yeah,
but I could have gone on for
then you
Maximilian for 5, 6, 7 episodes.
Yes. Margaret of Burgundy was like that, where I still had more. With Margaret of Burgundy, it was different. It wasn't that I had read everything I could. Well, it was, sort of. I didn't understand Dutch. So a lot of the books for her are in Dutch. So the language becomes an issue sometimes. Same with Isabella of Spain. I can get by
King John
on
of Denmark.
Spanish, but I'm not good enough to be able to really read a heavy book that's very specific language for court and for politics.
Yeah.
So that sometimes gets in the way. Other times you've read 3 or 4 books and dozens of research papers, and eventually you notice that they start repeating themselves.
And you think,
So I
actually,
stopped
you've just copied the other one effectively.
Yeah, that bugs me. I've just read an entire book where all you did was refer to a single book and all of their references, which I guess is sort of what we do, in a way.
Yes.
But we're only like a 2-hour episode. We're not a
Yes,
book that you're going to
yes,
spend
yes,
weeks
yes.
reading. Yeah.
Yeah, good question, though. Amanda Hayes, is there any Tudor tradition or food you'd like to try or have tried? The food is a difficult one for me because I don't eat meat or dairy products. So
But you did Hippocrates.
I did Hippocrates, yes, and I will do it again in the hope that I don't get angst this time. It might have been a pure coincidence, but I didn't think I was worrying about anything, and I felt fine when I started. And at the end, I felt a nagging worry about something that I couldn't pinpoint.
I did a Henry VIII roast that was mentioned in a couple of documents because ambassadors brought the ingredients. Like, it was deer venison. It was venison, a venison tenderloin that was then wrapped in prosciutto and then smothered in Dutch mustard.
Mustard sounds nice.
Yeah. Sorry. I made enough for 12 people. There were only 6 of us and we ate all of it.
Right.
We were very uncomfortable, but it was delicious. Some of the other foods, I don't think I'd ever want to attempt. Like they're putting the skins of the food back on. That kind of thing. No, thank
don't
you.
fancy that. No.
Traditional figgy pudding might be nice to try. I've never tried that.
Is that pretty much like mincemeat? I don't know.
I don't know. Didn't we look at a recipe?
I might have done.
No, I don't think.
I've read quite a few things about how to preserve fruit and things like that, and you think, that sounds quite nice. But then there's other things about how to stuff a crane, and you think, no, I don't want to stuff a crane.
No. Okay. So you could have it. It's raisins, sultana, currants, and figs, of course. Brown sugar, treacle, or honey, depending on what was available. Mixed spices, nutmeg, cinnamon, allspice, etc. Breadcrumbs, suet, eggs, and alcohol.
Okay, take the eggs out. That does sound like mincemeat, doesn't it?
Except there's no meat.
No, there isn't meat in mincemeat. Not for
There was.
not for the ones in mince pies. Oh, what there might have been then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was more meat than it was anything else. This one's very
Well,
different.
it sounds like a modern mincemeat.
Anything that says mince meat originally had meat in it, and it became a status thing that you put more of the expensive dried fruit and sugar in and took out the meat, and eventually there was no meat. That's the history of mincemeat. I looked it up because I didn't understand it. But yeah, the eggs is the only thing that seems to be
And I wonder if that doesn't sound necessary. Eggs is usually for binding things. It doesn't sound as if you'd need to bind it particularly.
I don't know. I might want to try that. I think I will try that.
Okay. Well, you can report back.
Yes.
And I'll have another go at the Hippocrates at some point.
Okay. I would never try tanzine.
Tanzine.
Tanzine? Yeah, or tansy.
Tanzine's a herb, isn't it?
Yeah, and they had it in their eggs, so their eggs were green, and they ate it all the way up to the Stuart times and stuff. But you can get tansy poisoning, which causes anxiety, paranoia, and sweating and everything else because it's toxic. But apparently it's delicious in the right amount, like really delicious. So it was eaten
It's a bit like having fugu. You've got to be very careful that you don't overdo it.
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, we've got tansy growing on the towpath. I could... No, I'm not going to risk it. I don't want to get...
There's a TV show, a BBC TV show, Supersizers Go.
Hmm.
And what's her name? They did the Georgians, and she eats it, and she gets poisoned. She gets all the paranoia and everything.
Oh, right.
What is her name? Sue Perkins.
All right. Yeah.
She's a comedian. What's that called? A conductor?
Yep.
Yeah. But yes, she eats it and gets tansy poisoning.
Oh.
That's a good show. I like that show. You would not like it.
Okay.
Funny thing is poor Sue Perkins is vegetarian.
Oh.
Yeah, and she eats through all of these. Not happily.
Weird. Right, another one. Another one from Twiller Calvert. Have you come across any information about a person you've already researched that you didn't know prior to posting? If so, was it enough to change or affect your opinion of them? And have you considered doing a follow-up episode to discuss?
I already answered that. Margaret Beaufort. I've learned so much more about her. It didn't change my opinion. It just solidified it more. And put her in an even more fun-loving light.
Oh, yeah.
She was very into gambling, alcohol, and parties.
Very into alcohol, yes. That's the point of having a problem, I would say.
Possibly. I'm not sure because the alcohol consumption for her did increase dramatically as her arthritis got worse.
Yeah.
So there could have been a logical reason for that.
I think it's not always a whole person that you think, oh, I got that completely wrong. It's little snippets where you think, oh, I wish I'd put that in. That was good. And how it links to somebody else. When you're doing the other person and you come across this person, you think, oh, that would have held that all together, and I didn't know. So, frustrating, but not enough to do a whole follow-up episode, I think. But when we come to do the end, pitting them against each other, might be able to bring in a bit more.
Oh, yeah.
Not enough to do an entire episode to put things to right, but yeah.
And we have admitted a couple of times that what we thought, researching somebody else, and we say, oh, this person was this, and then we go to research that person, we're like, ooh.
Yeah, I mean, we took it in good faith, the information, but yes, coming at it from a different angle, sometimes you think, oh, well, the person who wrote the other thing obviously hadn't seen it from this angle. But that's good, I think, because it's more discovery.
I do find that quite a few of the books that we do read, when they're written about the person, the bias is there's a reason why they're researching and writing a book about that person. So they have an invested interest. So unfortunately, I do find quite a few of them are more on the lines of hagiography instead of realistic. So, like Margaret of Burgundy, they kept putting her across as a saint, but I saw things in there that were definitely not saintly. So I don't know if we're getting it wrong. We do try our best to get as balanced as possible.
I get very annoyed with histories that have an agenda when they start. You think, I don't want that. I want you to find it out and say, okay, on the one hand and on the other hand. I don't want you to say, oh, she was lovely, or oh, he was a monster, and just I don't know if you told people what we're planning for right at the end when we pit all our people together.
Oh,
I think we've mentioned it on Patreon, but what we're thinking of doing is the balloon game. Not quite the balloon game, because obviously they hadn't invented balloons, but the balloon game is when you have maybe 4 famous people in a balloon and they've got to justify why they aren't chucked out to stop the balloon from crashing.
And we're hoping that we have some... What do you call that? When somebody steps in to fight for you.
Champions. Champion, yes. Some Patreon champions to fight their cause. So that's what we're planning to do. So if you want to champion someone, become a patron and choose somebody. And then
Yes.
when we finally get to the end of the season, we'll chuck them out of balloons. Or maybe they're at a siege. We haven't quite decided.
They get chucked out of the top tower.
Yes.
Defenestration.
But that's our plan.
The floor is going to collapse. Somebody needs to go out the window.
That's a good one. Yes. Yeah. Because there was something, wasn't there, a meeting where the floor collapsed?
Yes.
Yeah.
And more than one. We've covered a couple. The ambassadors in Spain, when they were on the stage collapsed.
And Pope Alexander. His
Right.
floor fell in.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, 2 similar ones from Elflader. Marry, shag, kill. Or more politely,
Oh, dear.
marry, spend one night, toss off a cliff. Well, she suggests taking one from the Tudorlicious lot and one from the non-Tudorlicious. But for a start, that means remembering who got Tudorlicious. And I think that's going to be quite tricky. I think perhaps we'll just think of one for each one. Janet Davis has a similar question. Snog, marry, avoid. Henry VII, Ferdinand of Aragon, and Maximilian. So should we start with those 3? Putting those into the category of snog, marry, avoid.
Ferdinand, Maximilian, and
Henry VII.
Henry?
Marry for Henry VII, I think. He was faithful.
He was faithful and he was kind to his wife. I would marry Ferdinand because he did not give up his wife as a hostage for his debts.
True.
And unfortunately, that means a one-night stand with Maximilian.
Well, mind you, that's all you could stand, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree. Well, you get to call him Maxie, I suppose.
Yes, very true. Well, I know who I'd kill.
Yeah.
It's a toss-up between Pointing or Empson and Dudley.
Yeah, okay.
But they're going off the cliff. Maybe tied together. Mary Shag. Goodness.
Yeah, I mean, choosing someone for the shag one is quite tricky because it makes it sound as if it's something you actually want to do.
Yes.
I was just
and there's
thinking,
nobody there
well, there's
that...
Perkin, and he was quite young and quite presentable.
Yeah. It's also restricting me specifically to heterosexual males. I'm sorry, I'm not into women that way. Yeah, this one's awkward. None of the men that we've covered in the regular feed are nice.
No,
One night stand with Arthur, he might not have touched you.
that's true.
Prince of Wales. It's the safest one.
But he'd claim he had.
Just like every teenage boy.
Yes. Yeah.
Mary, other than Henry?
I think I'll stick with Henry for that one.
I think I will too,
Yeah.
because none of the others have been... I don't know. I could possibly tolerate Bishop Fox. He wasn't a vicious person. I found him
But he was a
quite
bishop.
gentle. He was, but yeah, but they were all had wives or concubines or whatever you want to call them. Yeah. How about you for the one night stand? And the kill. You haven't said either of those.
I think one night stand. Perkin. I mean, he'd have a lot to tell you, wouldn't he? No,
None of it will be true.
toss off a cliff. Yeah, I mean, it's Dudley and Empson. It's Pope Alexander.
Oh, yeah.
It's...
If we're going for Patreon episodes, Cesare needs to go.
We haven't had a Patreon episode on him yet, but he does pop up on nearly all of them.
All of them. So he's going to be off. Even if we don't do a Patreon episode, it doesn't say we had to do an episode. We've just covered it.
Yeah, true.
Ooh, if I had to pick women, marry Katerina Sforza. She would have been amazing.
I don't know. I think one night with Katerina Sforza would probably be more interesting.
Yeah.
Toss off a cliff. Oh, Elvira.
Oh, Donna Elvira.
Yes, didn't like her. Oh, I didn't like her.
Or
We're going on to the Patreon ones. I didn't like Isabella. Forgotten her name. Who did we do? Isabella
Deste?
Deste. Didn't like her.
Like, we have only done 2. And I'm sure hoping you're not saying Isabella of Castile, because I liked her. She wasn't a nice person, but...
No, toss her off a cliff. Didn't like her.
Yeah.
And Mary Henry. I mean, none of us are saying, "Oh yes, marry Henry," but yeah,
none of these
Henry.
people are people we really want.
No,
Sorry.
it's an important proviso there. Right, I thought we might have to make this into 2 episodes, but we're nearly at the bottom here.
Okay.
Oh, here we go. Janet Davis asks, do you think Richard III killed the princes in the Tower? Did Philippa Langley's research change your mind at all?
Oh, dear. Okay.
Dan Ayer says, what do you think of the claims and counterclaims of Ricardians about the falsification stroke current narrative of history? Would you consider having Philippa Langley on the show? Well, I think how we answer this question is going to decide whether Philippa Langley would want to be on our show.
Yes. We should say that we were going to do an episode discussing her YouTube Princes in the Tower new evidence thing. It was recommended to us that it might start a little bit of a legal issue. So, did we agree? 100% no.
I think one of the troubles was the documentary was one of the worst I've ever seen for bias and just...
unbelievable bias.
Yeah.
And they were cherry picking their data.
I'm trying to think, okay, I'm not going to judge the documentary because that's not what we've been asked to do. just the fact. And I felt she's got 4 separate documents that she brings out, and none of them I felt were strong enough to say, right, this is the definitive answer. Some of them, I mean, all might be right, but I didn't think there was enough proof on any of them to say, to make this statement that I have now solved the mystery.
You say that so calmly, and yet you and I were yelling at the TV.
I don't think I shouted at a television so much.
Yeah. So no, she would not be on our
But
episode.
That's partly the documentary. I just got very cross with the documentary. I discovered actually that I only discovered this a couple of days ago. To explain the documentary, she takes a prosecuting barrister to see all these documents, and he has to use his insightful prosecuting barrister mind to decide on the truth or not. And he just falls over and has his tummy tickled, really, doesn't he? But I still discovered that he's actually a media personality. He's given up being a barrister. He's on the telly instead.
After that, I can see why.
Yeah. But I got very cross with the documentary.
Yes.
And I'm not quite so cross with the evidence, but I don't believe that any of them are foolproof.
Does it prove in any way that Richard III did kill the boys? No. I mean, it is possibly likely the reason he stayed completely silent is because he died of disease and he knew no one would believe him. It's the silence, the fact that he's silent about it is the problem.
And these claims of Philippa Langley, I think, go too far. I mean, she's convinced that both Perkin Warbeck and Lambert Simnel are who they said they were. But no, I wasn't convinced.
No, not in any way. I'm not saying that I was convinced the other way, that he definitely did.
Nope.
I don't think we have enough evidence either way.
No.
But I do know that Margaret Beaufort wouldn't have done it.
They did this on The Rest is History, and it's Tom Holland and Dominic Sandbrook. And Tom Holland said, yes, he thought Richard had done it. And it was wrong. He shouldn't have done it. And Dominic Sandbrook said, yes, he did it. And he should have done it because it was the only thing he could do in the circumstances. I don't think he wasn't advocating killing children, but he was saying
caveat.
he was saying in the mire that Richard had got himself into,
there was no way out. Yeah, because as soon as they did become king, when they became majority, they probably would have executed him. It was them or him by his stupid choices that he made.
So by a little sleight of hand, I've sidestepped my own opinion and just given you Dominic Sandbrook's and Tom Holland's. And now the next question. I'll be glad to leave The Princess and the Tower behind when we get to the next season.
Yes.
Ooh. All right. Twilla Calvert says, as to extremely well-educated people with seemingly endless thirst for knowledge. I think she's talking about The Rest is History as well. Oh no, it is us. What is it about the Tudor era that intrigued you so much that you started a podcast to share with everyone? Was there a specific moment or person that caught your attention? Moira Ismay has a similar question. What specifically drew you individually to the Tudor period? And Melinda Hornton said, why does the Tudor era draw you in? Can you each remember a moment when you encountered this period in history and it stood out for you?
Yes.
Okay, on to the next one then.
For me, believe it or not, and this is a very, very strange sideways come to it, Mary Dudley.
All right.
So we will cover her, but in brief, she was the younger sister of Robert Dudley. She knew Elizabeth as she was a child, and she was one of Elizabeth's ladies in waiting. And she comes down with smallpox.
Oh.
And it was the first time that I felt, when I was reading about it, it was the first time that I saw a king or queen as having a human side, because Elizabeth is unwilling to let her go and quite often has her to court, but in her own creates her own personal space that nobody else sees her because Mary doesn't want anybody to see her and visits her there. And that really made me think, okay, so she actually was capable of caring for people. And then it was the clothes. Like when you think of a princess, you think of the early Tudor dresses.
You do.
Yeah.
That's true.
Not the later wheel one.
You think of Margaret of Burgundy and her wimple, or Henan, or whatever you call it.
The Henan is the two...
Oh, the two-pronged ones.
The cone one, I can't think of what the cone one is. But yes, that is Margaret of Burgundy. Her hat, it's in all of her portraits. So yeah, it was the clothes that originally drew me in when I was a kid.
Well, I got into John Dee. I love John Dee.
Yeah.
And yes, it spread, really. I started reading about John Dee, and then I started reading about John Dee's time, and I started reading about other people I came across in John Dee. And yes, I thought these were all interesting people. And there must be lots of interesting people. So why not do a podcast about them?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's bloody hard work. That's why not.
Yeah. That's why so many people don't make it past episode 30.
Yes.
My goodness.
No, we enjoy it. Right, next question. Melinda Hornton. I'd love to know how you came up with this format. It's so flexible for a Rexipod. And David Whitley says, what attracted you to a Rexipod format, particularly as unlike many, you aren't going through a set list of monarchs, presidents or stories? I don't think I ever thought of any other idea apart from the Rexipod format. And if people don't know what we're talking about, it's the Rex Factor was the original podcast that rated kings and queens of England and gave them
Scotland
and gave them points for various categories like we do. And then several other people started their own. And I think when I thought about doing a podcast, that was all. I don't think I thought about any other way of doing it.
It's so much more entertaining when you've got one person who doesn't know it and the other person that does. And they're talking together. It's more of a conversation instead of one person just droning on about somebody they've read about.
I switch off a bit. I think I'm listening, and then I realise, no, I didn't catch any of that.
Yeah. Yeah, your brain sort of wanders off. Yeah. And then along came Totalis Rankium, and they're hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bree and Fry got in with the Popes, and it's grown. It's grown a lot. There's quite a few Rex podcasts now, and they all recognize they're part of the Rex Factor family.
Yeah, and when we started, at same time as Battle Royale, ranking 76, and then a little bit later, Spanish you have to say it because I can't say it.
Spanish Arpada.
Yes.
And then there's so many.
Yes, there's lots. There's Star Power, there's Quest for Power, there's one I can't remember the name of. He's doing Cardinal Numbers. Cardinal Numbers.
Yes, for all the cardinals.
There's one about gods. Gosh, there's every possible permutation. So you think you could rule Persia?
Yes.
Loads of them.
And
I hope I haven't missed any out because that would be awful.
Yeah, I know that a bunch of us actually asked for permission from Rex Factor.
Yeah, we did.
Before we ever started, because it would be rude not to. I don't know if all the newer ones did, but we definitely did, to make sure we weren't stepping on any toes. We also wanted to make sure that they were okay with us doing the time period we wanted to, and they said they'd never get to it, so we were good to go.
And they said, as long as you don't use exactly the same categories, which we couldn't. No, it wouldn't work for us.
Perkin, how was he in battliness? Nothing. He got 0. He ran away.
Yeah, you should get points for running away. I'd run away.
Yeah.
I'm not daft. I'm not going to stand there and get shot at.
Yeah. We did spend weeks and weeks and weeks trying to figure out what kind of rankings would work for the vast majority of the people that we were going to cover. So we started our recording, I think we put out our first episode in August, didn't we?
1st of August, yeah.
1st of August, yeah.
Which is when this one will be going out.
December the year before. No, February.
Yeah.
And we went through, because it took us a long time to hammer out how could we possibly rate them in a way that made sense, that would still ended up with some sort of ranking in the end that you're like, okay, I can see how they got there.
Yeah, and I think it works for this. I don't think it necessarily works for the Patreon ones, but then...
No.
But then it doesn't matter because we're not doing anything with that. It's just another way in. That's the good thing about these categories is you can talk about it from another angle. You can say, okay, well, I've mentioned intrigue. Well, I didn't mention this before, but so-and-so did this, this and this, and you can bring in other parts of it.
Yeah, and we did different things for Patreon. If you don't know, in Patreon we have Afterclap, which is what kind of impact did they have on the world around them, and that continues basically today. Mm-hmm. All the World's a Stage, which is would their life make a good movie or miniseries? Which, for a lot of them, there already is a mini-series. Oh, yes. But whether or not it's good is up to
and if there isn't one, it probably
opinion.
Won't make a very good one.
Cakes and Ale, which is interesting. It's whether or not Lucy and I would like to go to the pub for a beer. And we got a suggestion from one of our listeners that was yes would be a +10, no would be a -10, and 0 would be yes but not alone. Mm. Which we've actually used.
Yes. Yes, there've been quite a few. You thought, no, I'm not going there by myself.
And then
at Copernicus, we decided that actually neither of us would turn up, so it wouldn't be much of an evening.
Brass or water, are they evil or are they good?
Well, are they remembered as being that? Because that's sometimes very different, isn't it, as we've discovered for people like Lucretia Borgia.
Yeah. And that's, again, you've got a plus for they're fantastically wonderful, a -10 for if they're ridiculously horrible, and then 0 for they were basically neutral. Mm. And then we have a mess of aglets.
Yes,
which is a whole bunch of random questions that we originally thought we could put in a rating number and get a total, but it didn't work.
We kept saying, oh, hang on, if they are this, is that a plus or a minus?
Yes. Like questions like, which was more important, justice or mercy? How do you rank that? We discovered as we were in it that you really couldn't.
Yes.
What sort of music would they like if they lived now? I have no
I
idea.
don't know. Is that +5 for heavy metal and -2 for disco? I don't know.
Exactly. Totally didn't make sense. Yeah.
But yeah, put them all together and it doesn't really make any... It doesn't improve on your understanding of the people.
No.
But it doesn't
No,
matter.
not at all.
It's all a bit of fun. Okay, well, we answered that question at length. I can't even remember what the question was. Ah, here we are. Alison sent over, said, what do you both do outside this lovely podcast? Thank you very much. How did you two connect to create it?
So the connecting part was I was listening to a Totalis Rankium episode, and they put out a call from Lucy saying she wanted to start a Tudor podcast, and she was looking for a partner, and it took me about 3 seconds to send my email in. What made you think of reaching out to Totalis Rankium?
I couldn't find anybody. I mean, nobody I know is particularly interested in history, listens to the same podcasts. I tried to explain what we do.
Yeah, trying to explain that is hilarious when you're trying it for the first time.
Yes, if you don't, I listen to Rex Factor and then you're told, well, you're going to pit them all against each other at the end. And he would say, but why?
But they're from different times. Yes, and why? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
So you end up with one
I
winner.
don't know. We just do.
And it's good.
Yeah. So yes, I thought, well, the best thing to do is to ask other people who listen to the same sort of podcasts. And luckily, you got in touch, which was excellent because you were able to do all the computery bits at the beginning. You set it all up.
Yeah, the computer parts was a little frustrating, setting up a website for the first time in a way that would make sense for our podcast. That was a challenge.
Well, it's been good, this. I mean, we both seem to have more or less the same sense of humour. The same things make us laugh.
Yeah, we got on really well right at the beginning.
Yeah, I was telling a friend today, I said, I've got to go back and record later. We've got to go and laugh about syphilis. That seems to be my set phrase. Yeah, what do you do? We laugh at syphilis.
And we plug it in everywhere it can be for some weird reason. I even saw, I sent you a meme about syphilis just a little while ago that I found on Google. It popped up in my feed. That's awesome.
Perhaps that ought to be our new tagline. Instead of rating people from the Tudor era, we ought to say Tudoriferous. Laughing at syphilis. And it rhymes.
Oh, my goodness. One day you'll see the icon of ours change and it's just a little syphilis virus. Tudor syphilis.
I remember at the beginning, I wanted to be our icons to be our rotting heads on poles on Tower Bridge. We never got around to doing that.
No, and I couldn't draw that. I can do the tower. I could recreate the tower. I can't do heads on poles. I'm not that creative. We've seen how badly I draw.
What we do outside, I'm a gardener and sometimes artist.
Yes, and an author. You always forget to say that.
I keep forgetting about it.
You've written a book.
I did
that
write
makes you an author.
Okay. And you are?
I collect hobbies, and I randomly go through them. Quilting, spinning wool, learning how to crochet and knit right now. Oh, goodness. Embroidery, you name it. I cannot sit still. I am incapable of sitting still.
I can't sit and do nothing with my hands.
No, neither can I. Oh, dear.
Only 3 left. So, another by Alison Zenthofer. Where did you get the different music intros? I love how the cameos are different from the regular subjects, and that's different from Patreon episodes.
Thank you, Lucy and Rob.
Yes. Well,
Nothing to do with me.
Rob does it all. He plays it all. The first one, we went a bit mad, I think. We found this nice bit of music. I don't know if people know the music. Our intro music is Mother Watkins Ale. And it is a filthy little ditty. I've put the words up on our website if people want to go and look it up. So we haven't got the words in it because it is quite obscene.
Rob is Lucy's husband. We should put in there.
Yeah, it's
We keep mentioning him, but don't.
With Patreon, I just said, can we have what we've got, but really plug in the electric guitar? Mm-hmm. A bit like Blackadder, actually, admittedly. Yeah, the first one we just went mad. We played with music, and we've got a room full of musical instruments, and we just kept bashing things and scraping things and blowing into things and joining more and more on. And when I listen to it now, I think, oh, that was way over the top.
We also shortened it. The first episode, we've got the full length, but we had to shorten it because people told us that the intro was too long.
Yes.
But that's okay.
The cameo one, we didn't want the song to be longer than the episode, so we did a little guitar dinky one.
Yeah.
And I think Rob is very pleased that we do so many special episodes and cameo episodes, because it was looking as if he was going to have to record a song a week, really, at the beginning, or a song every 2 weeks. And now he's got a nice big gap between having to record them, which is...
Yeah, and Lucy does the lyrics for all of those at end of the episode.
I do the lyrics,
songs.
yes. He plays all the parts in them and does the singing. He enjoys the playing, he doesn't enjoy the singing.
Too late, can't go back now.
No. Okay, next one. Emily Beeks, which TV series or movie do you think is the most accurate to the Tudor times and individuals? Well, we've looked at the least accurate, that's sort of the Tudors. And...
Most accurate? Oh, goodness. Are any of them accurate?
I think Wolf Hall is probably very accurate. It feels accurate in the setting.
Yes, they did a good job with the lighting. I know it's not good for TV, but it was fairly accurate for what they would have been living in.
Yeah. A lot of it was filmed around here in Montague House and Ford Abbey and places like that. But whether Cromwell was actually as nice as Mark Rylance makes him. But that was from the books, so we can't really blame the series for that, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Tudors? No.
I couldn't watch that. Oh, there was something else as well. The Borgias. I tried to watch that.
There's two.
The one with Jeremy Irons.
Okay.
I watched the introduction, the theme music and everything, and thought, right, okay.
Yeah.
And then I watched about the first 10 minutes and thought, oh, for goodness sake. And that was as far as I got. I couldn't go on. I thought, this is just a bit like the beginning of, not that I've seen Game of Thrones. Rob always watched it, sitting up in bed, always watched it with the headphones on, so I was sort of aware of it. And sometimes I'd say to him, if you want to watch porn, why don't you go into a different room?
Wow.
But that's not the most accurate. We've just gone for the least accurate. I don't know. I thought the tower, the shadow of the tower seemed to make an effort.
Yeah, they did make an effort. And the clothing was very, very well done.
Even to the point of the king's knickers, which we got a nice
Yes.
view of at one time. As he was getting out of bed, you think, surely a retake would have been a good idea for that.
Elizabeth R. with Glenda Jackson. Quite accurate with her relationships with the men at court. I really enjoyed that. And the clothing there, again, they did a fantastic job with the clothing. If we're just going for any TV show, I found that The Six Wives of Henry VIII, it's a documentary, did a gorgeous job. Like, the attitudes seem correct. The clothing was, of course, on par because it's a documentary. Like, they really, really did a good job with The Six Wives of Henry VIII. My only thing that I didn't like was, I'm not sure why, but most places make Catherine of Aragon a dark-haired brunette with a darker skin. She was...
Oh, she's pale.
She was very pale and she had strawberry blonde hair.
I suppose they're saying the shorthand for this one's Spanish.
Possibly. Yeah. We don't want you to get confused with the rest.
Yeah.
Except Anne Boleyn had very dark hair and very dark eyes, and quite often they make her blue-eyed. It's like, we have contacts that would very easily cover a blue-eyed person. Yeah.
I did think of, it's another one that I didn't like. The Kate Blanchett, Elizabeth.
It's totally inaccurate, but I love it because I watched it before I really got into the history.
Right.
Because I was a teenager.
It's Walsingham that annoyed me. He almost had a big cloak on with his hand over his face.
Yes, yeah, he was very much that kind of person.
Creeping around behind pillars. So
And they didn't
Geoffrey
get
Rush,
his...
wasn't it? He was still,
Yeah.
And I thought, come on, he's got spy written all over him there. I mean, surely he'd have been
Yeah.
more subtle than that.
And my God, did they play with Robert Dudley and his marriage situation and the fact that he betrays her in the end. Like, that was so wrong. I even knew it back then that was wrong. But, yeah. Yeah.
So we've been asked what were the best ones, and we've mostly come out with which were the worst ones. Right, last question. Another one from Twilla Calvert. What do you feel, if any, are the biggest and most altering changes you've made to the podcast? Are there smaller things you've changed about the podcast that listeners may not know about? Well, we've got better at editing, and the sound might be better.
Oh, goodness. Yes. For anybody out there who's thinking of starting a podcast, please do not use Audacity.
Right.
Randomly
I've not had
changes your
trouble with.
microphone.
I've not had too much trouble with it. You've had more trouble with it than I have. What?
Last time you said that, it stopped working entirely and we couldn't record for like 3 weeks. You haven't had trouble. It randomly changes your microphone. So before we start, we always have to double check that it has the right microphone. And it'll do it after you've already set it up.
Yeah.
So that's why a few of our episodes have such horrible sound, because we did not catch that it was doing that. So all of a sudden we went from our actual semi-professional microphones that we purchased to our web cameras or our weird phone headset for when we're gaming. Like, it just, it's so dumb. And sometimes you've got itty bitty blobs. Sometimes you've got big blobs. You're always afraid to update it. Yeah, a lot of people have gone away from Audacity.
I'm sure updating is wonderful in every way, except that that's when I have the trouble always following the update.
Yes.
But it is free.
It is free. It is free, but we are looking at something else that's a bit more reliable, because it also ends up requiring hours and hours and hours of editing. 1 hour of a podcast that you're hearing is about 3 hours of editing.
Yes, and the rest sometimes.
And if you've got a really bad microphone because it's switched, that doubles the amount of time it takes to edit, because you're trying to correct the sound and you can only do so much. So yeah, that's probably the biggest change, is us actually learning how to get us set up so we don't have this problem.
I think we were more serious at the beginning.
Yes.
I have listened to a few because I've thought we've done over 100 episodes. There must be loads of things I've now forgotten. Facts that I've forgotten. So I've been listening to quite a few of our early episodes. And yes, we're much more, here is the information. I'm telling you the information. Oh, thank you for telling me the information.
Yeah. We're much less worried about being judged. At least I am. After I got the first comment that I laugh too often, I was like, you know what? I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And just sort of, I actually just stopped reading.
Yes, I didn't know anyone had said that. Oh, miserable kid.
Yeah, it didn't make me feel good because I laugh this much in real life. Sorry, I'm just a happy person. It's the way I am.
I think I was always, I still sort of half look at we've got the Audacity software going at one side of the screen and I'm looking at you on the other side.
Yeah.
I've always got part of my eye looking at that just to make sure it's still going. And I think when I was starting, I was so terrified it was going to stop and would have to redo a 2 or 3 hour episode or something. That I think I was mesmerised by it. And so sometimes it sounded a bit stilted because I was worrying about the technology all the time. I don't worry about it now. It seems to sort itself out.
Yes, eventually.
So
I've still got it on one screen so I can make sure it's still going.
Oh, it's still, yeah.
I'm
it's
always
still
worried
going.
it's just going to stop.
Yeah. No, it's still, I can see it out the corner of my eye, but I'm not mesmerised by it anymore, thinking, please don't stop, please don't stop. Yeah. Please, we've done 1 hour, 37 minutes. I do not want to have to do this again.
Yeah, the saving is still terrifying.
Yeah.
Because we did a 2-hour episode, and when I saved, it crashed. And you and I were like, oh gosh, and I spent, 3 or 4 days and managed to recover it. Thank goodness. It didn't come out. It's one of the, you'll know which episode it is, or you'll know which one of episodes it could possibly be, because my sound is quite off during that episode. I do notice it. But at least we didn't have to re-record.
Yeah. I do remember actually an editing mistake I made, and I'm not quite sure how it happened. It was in Philip the Fair's episode, and the thing goes, martyrdom, and somehow I zapped me out of it completely. I was missing from that bit entirely. But at some point you laugh. So I took out everything else, and it just said martyrdom, and then you laugh, and then we go on to the next one. Because I thought, well, that covers it. That covers what we thought of his martyrdom. I don't know what happened. I must have accidentally pressed delete and got rid of myself for those few minutes. So.
Yeah. Sharing the data across time has been interesting. We ended up setting up a joint Google Drive. So we both have access. We upload our episode onto there, so then one person can do the editing and the joining. But yeah, I don't know what else to say.
No, I can't think of anything else we've changed particularly over the years.
No, neither can I. Yeah, some of it we got more creative rather than doing and then. We tried lumping sections together, so we do try to change it up a bit, depending on who we're covering.
Yeah, some people chronologically works better and some people doesn't, because you're just leaping about so much.
Yeah, because they're leaping about so much. Yeah.
Right, that's the
next
lot.
question. That's all of them?
That's all. Yeah.
Thank you for the questions. They were
Yes.
really good questions.
They were, yes. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Those were all our Patreon people, I think. Pretty much nearly all our Patreon people.
Oh, thank you very much. That was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought to start with we weren't going to get any, and then suddenly, boom, 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 they started appearing.
Thank goodness people listen.
Yeah, and listened for the last 3 years. So thank you all very much for listening to us witter on about these crazy people for 3 years.
Yes.
And in 3 years' time, you never know, we might have finished Henry VII. I'm in no hurry. Actually, having said that, I'm looking forward to a lot of Henry VIII stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. The people. And there are a lot of them. And when we think about, I think we had about 30 odd people and 30 odd people to start in our list to start with for Henry VII, and we've ended up with 50 something.
Yeah.
So inevitably the same thing's going to happen with Henry VIII.
Yeah, because we're starting with people who were commonly known, and it's not until we start researching that we discover that they didn't do things on their own, and people are mentioned, and that's how we find the other people to fill out the story.
Yeah. And then when you add all the cameo episodes, my God, it's going to be daunting.
We may not get past Henry VIII.
No. I wish I'd started when I was younger, really, but then obviously there weren't podcasts then.
Yes.
I'm worrying I'm going to run out of life before I get to the end. That's my worry.
Rex Factor started, what, in
12 years ago?
Yeah. Yeah, something like that. So we could have started then if we'd known.
Oh, well, too late now.
Well, that's the end of our episode on the questions and answers. Thank you very much. And keep sending in your questions. We'll probably end up doing this again.
Yeah, I think so.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.